Welcome back, Ready Families. This week, we're going to discuss number recognition with your child. Now, number recognition in line with alphabet recognition, it aligns kind of the same. So we're going to work on being able to recognize a number. Now, the whole picture will be able to see a number, say what that number is, and give a representation of that number, as well as write that number. But this week, we're going to work on recognizing the number and writing the number. So this week, for one of your first activities, you'll see the number tracing. With this activity, you'll notice that at the bottom of every corner, there is a little poem. I want to encourage you to read these poems with your child every time they're writing this number in the very beginning. There's a reason why. The reason is because this helps the child remember how to make that number. This will be something that they can think about when they're thinking about the number 1. Then they can think, oh, straight line down and then you're done. That's the way you make a 1. So they'll be able to do straight line down and then you're done. That's the way you make a 1. You'll notice it, the more you say this, the more they're going to say it and they're going to remember it to make these numbers. So when you put these inside your dry erase pocket folders, give them the dry erase marker to trace these. You may want to start with just the finger. These are things you can take outside with a piece of chalk and work on writing the numbers. Every number has a different story, 0 through 9. After 9, we don't do that because they'll learn how to put the 2 digits together. But focus on these one day, one number at a time, one number a day, and keep repetition is key in doing these over and over and over again. So we want to work to where they get to a point where they see a number 2, they can say, oh, that's the number 2. And they can even say around and back on the railroad track, 2, 2. Remember that part, they love that part. To be able to make the numbers and to recognize the number when they see it. Then we will add on the representation of seeing 2 dots and knowing that that's 2 dots, and that's for the number 2. But this week, work on the number formation and number recognition. Another activity you'll see on the parent platform this week is roll it, write it, count it. Now this activity, just like the say it, make it, write it, it's the same kind of activity. So you'll take the dice, just give them 1 die, and they'll roll it and they'll see what number that is. And they'll see if they roll a 4, they'll count the 4 dots, and then they're going to work on writing the number 4. That's where you can pull out your number tracing cards next to the roll it, write it, count it, and they can see that representation to make the number 4. Then give them some kind of manipulative, either erasers, pom-poms, pony beads, and they're going to count out the 4 that they have seen and rolled and written, and they'll count it out. This works on one-to-one correspondence counting as well. So have fun this week with roll it, write it, count it. We're going to continue this week working on fine motor skills and counting together with the Feed the Monster. So by now, hopefully your child has gotten pretty comfortable with this activity and they're squeezing the tennis ball well. Make sure that they're using both their dominant hand and their non-dominant hand, or just using both hands in general to make sure that we're strengthening both sides. Except this time, when we're doing this activity, we want our children to count the ball, the manipulative that they're feeding the monster. So one thing you could do is give them a die. They can roll the dice and get a number. Oh, I rolled the number 5. So let's feed the monster 5 pom-poms, and they can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop. This is going to help with that one-to-one correspondence. So with this activity, we're still working on those fine motor skills, make sure they're switching hands. We're working on our counting. They can count them out before they feed the monster or as they feed the monster, that doesn't matter, but they're getting the practice of counting, and that's important. The next activity I want to show you is the walk the number line activity. Now this one's going to take a little bit of space and some prep work. So in your bag, you notice that you had a deck of cards. We're going to use the deck of cards in a lot of different ways. And let me tell you, this is one of the best things you can keep handy to practice numbers and number recognition on the go anywhere you are. So keep your deck of cards handy. Go ahead and on your aces, write the number 1, or you can cross it out if you want to, or you could leave it, but I just wrote a number 1 on those. For this activity, we're just going to focus on 3 different numbers. So I just picked numbers 1, 2, and 3, and I just got a few out of each one. On the floor, you're going to make number lines. So you'll make 3 different number lines, 1 for each of your numbers. So you're going to make a number line for 1, a number line, and it'll have 2 hash marks on it for 2, and a number line for 3 that will have 3 hash marks on it. In the activity book, there's a picture that shows you a great example of what this will look like in your home. So at one end of the number line, you'll have the cards and you'll mix them up, and you'll have your child flip over the card. And so say they pulled up this card, number 3. Now they're going to look for the line that represents number 3. You can also at the top of the line put a big paper plate that has the number 3 on it or something if you would like as well. So the point is they find, okay, this is the number 3. This represents the number 3, and then they're going to walk it out. Remember, we've talked about children are kinesthetic and they need to move and do. So what they'll do is they'll find the number 3 and they will start at 0 and they'll step 1, 2, 3, and then they'll put the card on that number. Then they'll go back and they'll flip over another card. Say this time they flipped over the 1. So they'll look for the number line that's the number 1 number line, and they'll do the same thing. They'll step 1 and they'll put the card down. This I know seems like a tedious activity, but we're getting so many different concepts in there. We're using their kinesthetic abilities. We're counting things out. They're working on recognizing numbers. So start simple with these, and then you can change it up and add other cards in there for this activity. Now, remember, we've talked about we're not leaving literacy behind in our activities working with numbers. So this week on the parent platform, you'll see the activities of sticky letters. How is your child doing through the alphabet? Are they making progress? Have they got it down completely? Are they still working on some of those hard letters? As a parent, take a while to examine where your child is. If you see letters that they're struggling with, match those letters up with some letters that they're highly successful with and know very well, and get them to practice on those letters that they're struggling with. We've got to keep going with that literacy and making sure that these children have the full letter knowledge of being able to recognize the letter, tell you the letter sound, and give you a representation of that letter. So make sure you do that with sticky letters. We're going to keep working on those high frequency words. This week, let's focus on he, she, and the word and. Remember, if you need to break it down and do it a little bit slower, that's fine, but make sure we're getting that high frequency word practice in there with the high frequency word hop. Get them outside with the chalk if we have nice weather. Write those words down on the ground and have them hop around. If not, bring it inside and do that where they can do the high frequency word inside on the floor. Make sure you tack down those words on the ground so we don't slip and fall. Another activity you'll see this week is pony bead counting. Now, this is where we're going to continue working on our counting and our fine motor skills. So what you'll do is you'll take some of your pipe cleaners, and for mine, I have folded them in half, twisted it up, and I put a number flag on the end of it. The folding it in half makes the pipe cleaner a little bit thicker and makes it a little bit harder for the kiddos to be able to string the pony bead on there. So you'll give your child some pony beads and the flag, and we'll get them to recognize this number. That's the number 1. Okay, so now we're going to put 1 pony bead on the flag. And then we have 1 pony bead. So I just did numbers 1 through 5 for the very beginning for the children to start with. And this is a great activity to give them when you have busy work that you need to get done. Because again, once they are recognizing the numbers, this is one of those activities that they can do independently. Remember, we're working on that independent work. And they can be able to count out the pony beads. We'll use these later on for sequencing activities as well. This is a great activity to put in a Ziploc bag, have in the car with you when you're at appointments or dinners or things like that. But this is a great way for them to continue working on their fine motor skills, being able to lace the bead onto the onto the pipe cleaner, but practicing that number recognition and their counting as well. We hope you enjoy this week's activities. Remember to use your daily activities, the shapes and number book, and the calendar. The calendar is critical to learn the days of the week, the months of the year, and to work on their counting and number recognition. Have a great week, everyone.